not just of the great monks and the great nuns doing these amazing feats of meditation, but of the ordinary monks who made mistakes, of the nuns who did stupid things. And one of my favourite stories from that collection is of this nun who was cleaning up one morning in her monastery. This was actually in Savatthi. And she had the bucket of night soil, the feces from the night before. And instead of putting it in the correct place, she decided to throw it over the wall, over the monastery wall of a compound. And it just so happened that on the opposite side of the wall, there was a man who was on his way to the palace, in his best clothes, perfectly groomed, when this bucket of shit fell on his head. And quite understandably, he wasn't happy. In fact, he was furious. In fact, he was incensed. And he got one of his flaming torches, and he said, these prostitutes dressed up as nuns, these shameless women, I'm going to burn down their monastery. How can you do this to me? And you'd be rightly quite crazy and mad, if you get a bucket of that stuff on your head when you're just going out to see the king. So he went in there determined to burn down the monastery. But they had a temple attendant. And the temple attendant was very smart. He said, where are you going? I'm going to burn down all the huts and the buildings of these shameless nuns. Look what they did to me. And the attendant said, they poured that on your head? Yes! Oh my goodness, he said. That's auspicious. That's really lucky. That's even better than holy water. And the man said, really? These are holy nuns in this monastery. If they poured that and you had the good fortune to be standing underneath it when it came, you can't get luckier than that. Oh, that's incredible good fortune. Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, sadhu, thank you, nuns. Now that was really quick thinking on the part of that attendant. So according to the story, the attendant said, now listen, that's such good fortune. Go home quickly. So get washed and changed again into some new clothes. Go to the king's palace. Something very lucky is going to happen to you. Oh, really? So just like, people in Malaysia are into good luck, so was he in the time of the Buddha. And they believe anything sometimes, and so did he. And then he went there, and he went to the palace, and then he got this amazing contract which made him a fortune from the king. But when the Buddha heard that story, called all the nuns together and said, listen, you got away with it this time, thanks to that very, very smart attendant. But now we'll make a rule. You should not throw the bucket of over the monastery wall. And that was a story. You can read that in the Bhikkhuni Patimokkha. So people haven't changed in all these years. They're just exactly the same. We do silly, stupid things, and sometimes we can be very smart, we can be gullible, we can actually believe in luck, just as in the time of the Buddha. So people haven't changed. So if they could become enlightened in those days, they can become enlightened now. Look at stream winners in those days, the stream winners today. So yeah, you can do those things. Yeah? Can you enter the stream without practicing samadhi? And that's a very good question. It's one of those open questions. Personally, I say you do need jhanas, because I can't see any other way of doing it. That might be the limit of my experience and wisdom, but there's many monks who support that. They say, yeah, you do need jhanas to become a stream winner. Other people say, no, it's possible, and there is some evidence for that in the time of the Buddha. It was possible without the jhanas. But certainly it helps. So that's an open question. I can't really say for sure. Give it a try. But if you get the deep meditations, it is, everyone agrees on this, much, much easier. I think I gave a simile some time ago. It's like, for example, we're here in KL. If you want to get to Penang, it's possible to walk there, but it's very, very difficult. So it's much better to get on a car, a bus, or an aeroplane. It's much easier to get there. So because those vehicles are available, you should get on those vehicles. In the same way, it might be possible to get to stream winning without meditation. But because you've got this wonderful vehicle of meditation, you might as well get on it and take the easy way. So it might be possible by not having meditation, but I can't really see it. Just the same way it might be possible to walk from PJ to Penang, but has anyone here done that? So it's a bit too difficult. Aha. You're talking about sometimes people gain stages of enlightenment in the time of the Buddha just by listening to Dhamma. It wasn't just by listening to Dhamma they gained enlightenment, because that doesn't really pay much attention to all the things they were doing before. It's just like, for example, you may go into like a university convocation centre. You might just walk in there one afternoon and see somebody getting their degree. And you see them dressed up in a gown and a funny hat. And all they do is just to wait and sit down until their name is called out. And they go up to see this dignitary and they receive this little diploma. If that's all you see, you think, all you need to do to get a degree is actually sit in this hall at the right time and yet get your name called up, and then you just get your degree. It's like a photograph of the last event which led up to you getting your degree. It doesn't take into account all of the hard work, the lectures, the assignments, the research, the exams you did before that time when you received the degree. In fact, when you go to people's homes, that's all you see. You see a photograph of them receiving their degree. You never see photographs of them going to lectures or doing their exams or sitting in front of the computer doing their assignment. You only take the photograph of the last moment. In the same way, in the sutras, very often, you just have the photograph, the story of the last little event which actually created the enlightenment. Even though all those other events, the other hard work, all the teachings they listened to, all of the meditation they did, all of the aches and pains which they had in their body when they were sitting meditation just like you, all the despair they got when sometimes they thought they were getting nowhere. You don't see that in the sutras. Or sometimes you do. But mostly you see that final event. That last little piece in the jigsaw puzzle when someone became enlightened. But the full story is much bigger than that. That make sense? Uh-huh. Yes, well, you can read the sutras. We certainly agree with that. It's hard, it's impossible, actually, to say that you can get to anagami or arahat without jhanas. There are other places where it seems to say that, yes, you do need jhanas to get stream winning. In the Anguttara Nikaya, there's a passage which says that. But there's other passages which seem to be opposite. So it's a case not proven on either side. From the sutras, it seems sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't. So it's ambiguous. So I can quote the sutras too, which says, yeah, it looks like you do need it. What the sutra is without grasping the nimitta of samadhi, in other words, without gaining the jhana, you can't obtain samadhi, right view. Now that's one saying in there, in the sutras. It's in the Anguttara Nikaya, and that's one I quote, actually to give weight to the idea you do need the jhanas to gain even stream winning. But I will talk about that tonight, because this evening when I talk about seeing things as they truly are, I'm going to especially focus on why the experience of jhanas gives rise to enlightening insight. Because from experience as well as from the sutras, I will explain why it's so vital. So we're not just going on theory, who said what, but I'm going on to explain why this is so. And hopefully you'll be able to understand it from the explanation I give. Okay, next question. When I was having my meditative meal, as I closed my eyes, bright nimitta still appears, so I stopped biting and contemplate for a while. Is it true that eating could also bring about insight? Yep, sure. When you're eating your food, you can contemplate impermanence. In fact, it's very impermanent on my plate. It doesn't last that long at all. Sometimes it's suffering, because if it's very delicious food, again, it soon finishes, and my delicious tastes are all gone. And if it's not delicious food, why do I have to eat this? Especially as a monk, because people are always standing over you saying, eat this, this is really nice, eat this. So sometimes you have to put in your mouth things you would rather not put in your mouth. So, eating can be meditation. It's anatta. It's not mine. You can't keep anything. You can't be attached to the food. As long as it's in the mouth, it will soon come out later. And whenever you're eating, always reflect on this. You know when you go to the toilet, when the feces come out, they're all brown and smelly. Where do those feces come from? They must be in the food there somewhere. They're actually covered up, almost like packaged. So actually, because what that food is feces plus a few proteins and vitamins. And it goes in the body, the proteins and vitamins get taken out, and what was left, which was there in the beginning, comes out the other end. And so when you're taking your lunch, in that rice, those noodles, there's feces under there somewhere. They can't come from nowhere. That'll stop you eating a lot. That's meditation. Dear Ajahn, does a talisman blessed by a monk work? If so, in what ways is it useful? Does it have a shelf life? Yeah. No, these talismans blessed by a monk. There was my great teacher Ajahn Chah. He would never give out those talismans. Never. Except once. Because this young man came to see him and he was about to join the Thai army. He'd been conscripted and he didn't have a choice. He had to go. And even in those days there were many skirmishes on the borders between Laos, Burma and Cambodia. Even though they're supposed to be friendly, the armies still every now and again shot at each other. Many people have been killed. It wasn't reported in the papers, but it was still happening. And he was very scared. So he asked Ajahn Chah, he'd been a disciple for many years, his family had been disciples. Ajahn Chah, please give me one of these little Buddha medallions I can put around my neck to protect me from bullets. And Ajahn said, no, look, we don't do that. He said, please, look, I've been giving you all this dana. You're supposed to be compassionate. You teach us about gratitude. And our parents helped us. We should help our parents. I've been helping you. Now you help me. And so Ajahn Chah gave in. He said, okay, I'm going to give you a Buddha to hang around your neck. And I guarantee it will protect you from bullets. And he was so excited. Because Ajahn Chah very rarely gives this. And a Buddha to protect him from bullets when he's in the army. He was so happy. Okay, can I have it, he said. Go in the main hall, that big 6-foot Buddha over there. That's the one I'm giving you to wear around your neck. And it will protect you from bullets. That's the only one which works. You're just such a fun monk to be around. And it's true. That's the only one which protects you. I read in the newspapers in Australia, there was a general who had one of these very expensive talismans, medallions. You can buy them in Bangkok, and some of these things cost $500,000 US. Incredible. And that's years ago. They've probably gone up to $1 million now or more or something. Some of these medallions are so rare and so expensive. That's how much they cost. And the reason they cost that much, they're reputed to protect you from everything. So being a general in the Thai army with lots of power, and because of corruption, he was very wealthy. He had one of these medallions. And the story was he was in the officers' mess somewhere in Bangkok. a general, with one of his officers, a major. They'd both been drinking, and as a boast, the general pointed out this medallion. $500,000 US, protect you against anything. Yeah, yeah. So the general said, here, I'll show you. Here's my gun, shoot me. And it was an order. The general ordered the major to take the gun and shoot him. So the major had no choice. Maybe because they were a bit drunk anyway that he did it. And he pulled the gun up at the general and pulled the trigger. And the bullet came out and killed the general. What a stupid general. That's why I was in the Australian papers. There was a general who died in the officer's mess, was shot by the major because he was testing out the talismans. So don't be stupid. If you want to be protected, the best talisman which actually works and's got an eternal shelf life is the 5 precepts. So wear those around your neck, and they will protect you from so much harm. So that's the talismans which good monks give out. Not little Buddhas. The little Buddha there is actually to remind you of your religion. So you can carry that around. There's nothing wrong with having a talisman like that, a little Buddha. But you look at that and remember that you're a disciple of the Buddha. Remember what the Buddha means about peace, virtue, compassion, wisdom. And use that as like a little shrine you carry around your neck to remind you of the great teacher. And that will have an eternal shelf life. Next question, dear Ajahn. I have heard about Thai forest monks who go into such deep meditation that they are able to levitate above ground. I'm curious on the subject and wonder why it occurs. Speaking of super monks, for your information, there was already a Hollywood movie called The Bulletproof Monk, starring Chow Yun-fat, where apparently he is a monk who can levitate, jump really impossible heights, and is bulletproof. Incidentally, the movie was based on Tibetan tradition with metta. Okay, but was he violent? Was there any sex involved? Was there any sex involved? Not violent at all. Oh, very good. There was violence. Yeah. If it was really the Buddhist tradition, there'd be no violence. There'd be people about to fight each other, and the bulletproof monk or the super monk would come up and say, hatred never ceases from hatred. It only ceases through love. Now, that'd be really, really inspiring, but unfortunately people like violence. That's why they go to the movies, to see violence. I remember as a student in the university film club, there's a very, very brilliant young man who was the president of the university film club that year. And they had all these films they were going to show, the real films. And he put forth the program for the next term about what the films were. And he named the film and then gave a brief description of their content. And it was like, Zulu. The content, sex and violence in South Africa. They had another film, Madigan or something, sex and violence in Los Angeles. And everything was just sex and violence, just in different locations. And you couldn't fault him in his description, because that's all that movies are. Sex and violence in China, sex and violence in Hollywood, sex and violence sort of all over the world, sex and violence in the Twin Towers, that's James Bond. Because that's what people want from their movies. So, super monk would not have any sex and violence. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Probably wouldn't sell, but it'd be wonderful. But levitation. Can monks levitate? Yes, some monks can levitate. How do you think I got here to Malaysia? I levitated in Singapore Airlines. Flying through the air at 30,000 feet. No. But some people could do this naturally. But if any monk does have any psychic power, any nun, they never show it. Imagine what it would be like if someone saw me levitate. The Australian government would come up to me and say, Ajahn Brahm, you have to go to Beijing for the Olympics. We need that gold medal for the high jump. If you could do this. The Malaysian government, does it give like $1 million or something if you win a gold medal at the Olympics? Maybe you can learn levitation.